Are you ready?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay, so if you want to start by introducing yourself then.
I'm Rob. I am the hubby of that nurse who asks questions.
That husband that goes red.
Yes, thank you.
So one of the questions that we've got is something along the lines of, are you more quiet and behind the scenes?
Yes, most definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the reasons why I wanted you to be the first guest on the podcast is because I think a lot of people don't understand how important you were and how supportive you were in what I did with the walk. Very often I would walk up in the cities or even on the protests, and people would say like, oh, does your husband not support you? And it's like, yes, that's exactly why I'm here, because he's so supportive. Like, look what I can do.
Yeah.
So it was really important for me to share your part of the story and to say thank you as well, because it really was a team effort and I wouldn't have been able to do it without you and your support, because it was really difficult at times.
Yeah, it was.
So I guess I will start by saying how we got married. I will start that so that you can listen to me and kind of get warmed up and get comfortable in your seat and with your microphone and stuff.
Do I not look comfortable?
So we went to high school and primary school together.
We did.
And so we went to Peterborough in Crewe. And one of the first memories that I have of you is answering a question that Mr. Foster asked. I can't remember what the question was, but the answer was Spaghetti Junction. And it was about the motorway in Birmingham that I had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
And I remember that really impressed me, because this new kid's just come into the class and he knew the answer.
And that was a moment that I knew I'd got you.
Yeah. So that and considering my memory as well is so bad, like that's really I'm impressed I remember that. So we went to primary school together, high school together, and I'm telling the audience this. I'm not reminding you of this. And then we got together when we were 25. So I was living in Edinburgh, you were living in Peterborough, and we went back to home for Christmas. So we were in Nantwich and bumped into each other. And then we both moved back to Crewe. We got our house, started the business. And then after 3 years, we split up.
We did.
It was
quite a messy breakup.
It was quite a messy breakup. One side was messier than the other.
Yeah.
And so we split up, and he's taking a nervous sip of water now. And we were split up for 3 years. Didn't speak to each other. I did send you glitter. I sent you a glitter bomb.
She sent me a glitter bomb.
How romantic.
That's how mad. I was so mad at you. I was so mad I sent you glitter. And I remember, because we weren't friends on social media or anything, and a mutual friend of ours saw that you did a post on Facebook, and it was like, which blah, 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 has done this.
Sent me a glitter bomb.
And she sent me a screenshot. I was like,
yes.
See? So yeah, that's how mad I got. I sent you glitter 18 months later.
I was going to say it was about 18 months afterwards, wasn't it?
Because I didn't want you to think it was me.
Yeah, so it didn't even cross my mind that it was you.
And then, I was in like some real shitty relationships, and
same here.
And we'll save that one for another podcast.
Yeah.
I will save the kind of the in-betweeny time for a different one. And I went to a training course, and there was a table full of women, and there was a guy sat on his own, and I went and sat with the guy, and he was telling me about India. So he was Indian, telling me about his family at home and traditions and things. And I remember driving home that night and deciding that I was going to get a one-way ticket to India, and I was going to put the house up for sale. And because I was just sick of all these silly boys coming into my life. I just wanted to go and find myself. So the plan was I was going to go to India, although I say one way, I wasn't just going to go to India.
You were coming back.
I was coming back, yeah, and I was going to come back on the dog's birthday, on Sam's birthday, in July. So drove home, put the house up for sale, and then all of a sudden, all of these exes came back into my life in various forms. So I got like a bunch of flowers from one, I got an e-card from another, a hand-delivered letter from another. And from Rob, I got an invoice.
You got an invoice from a road safety pamphlet company that just didn't get the right information.
No.
Advertised your company instead of mine.
Yeah.
And started chasing you for the money.
Yes, they did.
And in true Jenna fashion, rather than email me, you emailed the office.
I did.
I responded back.
Because you'd never listen to me if it was just, if I emailed you, you would never listen to me. You would take action if it was the office.
So I responded back to you the entire and was like, look, this is a mistake. Just think about this logically. Why would I spend money to advertise your company? This was for my company.
And of course, I was always thinking logically.
Yeah, right. And what happened?
So you asked if you could say sorry.
Is that what happened?
You did. You asked if you could say sorry. And straight away with that response, I knew that there'd been a change. I knew that something had shifted inside you. So you asked if you could take me for a coffee.
And then you said no.
I said no.
It sounds like a free course dinner with champagne.
Yeah. I was like, no, this is not a coffee apology because you were an absolute dick to me. So it's my
sip.
So it's my birthday at Christmas and we went out. So I think it was a Friday before Christmas.
Yeah.
There was a new steak place just opened and you picked me up and you brought an India tour guide book, not a person to take me around.
A Sherpa.
So you brought this book and again, that was another marker for me. Like I knew that you'd changed. I knew that something had changed. And I think when we did split up, there was never an issue for me whether you loved me or not. I always knew you loved me, but communication was really, really difficult for us.
Yeah.
So I knew that by those two things, the email and the book, that there's something had changed. And asking to apologise, the content of the email. So we went to this new steak place and it was all twinkling, it was lovely, and you forgot your wallet. And I was like, don't you worry.
Got Apple Pay.
Don't you worry.
Got Apple Pay on your
We
phone.
can go back if you want to go back and pick up your wallet. So we went into the restaurant. It was lovely. And the guy sat us down and I said to him, I asked him if he'd be serving us all night. And he said, yes, my name's Brooke. I'm also the manager. And I was like, Brooke, fantastic. Fantastic. My name's Jenna and this is Rob. And 3 years ago, this guy was a complete dick to me. I'm saving room for pudding. I'm having a 3-course meal and I'm not paying for this meal. And if at any point he looks like he's getting mad, just bring me over a glass of champagne.
Yeah.
And you just thought I was ordering a drink.
Yeah.
And then 12 days later, we're in Vegas getting married.
We ran off. You manipulated me. That's what happened. You used a Black Mirror episode of Black Mirror.
Maybe. So because I was going to India, or is it how to... it's more of persuasion than manipulation. So because I was going to India and because there was all these like boys that just wouldn't commit or just do my head in, I was like, right, we're either committing or we're not. Like that's the options that we have. And then I remember saying to you, because I'm the impulsive one. I'm the loose cannon.
I'm really not.
No, spreadsheet Rob. Not at all.
Why do people go to Vegas? To gamble?
So it was close to New Year and I was like, let's just go Vegas. And you were like, yeah, let's. And I said, and you were like, well up for getting your visa sorted. And I was like, well, let's just talk about this. So I went to yours the day after and you'd already got like your suitcase packed, like your little T-shirts out. So again, there's been a change there. There's been a change. And that's when we had the conversation of what do people do in Vegas?
Yeah.
Gamble.
And I think that was number 3, wasn't it? Go and get married. So it was gamble, party, get married.
Yeah.
No, we can't do that.
Bingo.
No, we can't do that.
And he said no. He said no, that he wasn't going to marry me.
I did. I turned it down.
So if anyone's seen Black Mirror, there's one episode where I can't remember the actor's name, but he's in Peaky Blinders. And I want to say that, the redhead girl is in the social credit one, isn't she? Yeah. So the Peaky Blinders guy, and they go on like a dating thing. There's like a
Magic 8 ball that tells them how long they're going to be together, and then they try and they have like a one-night stand, don't they?
Yes,
and they keep bumping into each other, but they keep getting drawn back to each other, and then they decide to climb the wall.
Yeah.
And she put that episode on intentionally because when it finished, I said, Shall we climb the wall together? And then we booked the flights to Vegas.
Let me just go back to that. So they were. This ball says how long they can stay together. So you don't have any free will in that. And they came back together, this original couple, and they were so happy and they didn't want to break up. But the guy just could not cope with not knowing how long he was going to be in this relationship for. So he kind of snuck downstairs one night and he like shook it, didn't he? And then it started going backwards. Yeah. So then he had to confess, and
because he'd broken her trust.
Yes, that was it. Yeah. And then they were skimming pebbles, and it was like
it was going the same number, wasn't it? Every single time.
So that's when they wanted to walk to the edge of the city, I guess like the Truman Show. And then they climbed the wall, and then they got over, they got out of the system. And then that's when you said, like, should we climb the wall?
Yeah.
Should we go? And I actually asked you why you said no.
Yeah, and it wasn't because I didn't want to. It was more because I was bothered about what my friends and family were going to say, because that was completely out of character for me. My dad... didn't tell him, he was the main kind of person that I was worried about. And as it happens, everyone was okay with it.
Yeah, and did we mention it was a messy breakup and friends and family had no idea we were even talking, let alone going to Vegas?
Yeah, no one knew anything.
No, so my dad looked after the dog. You picked me up on New Year's Day 2020.
That was Frosty.
So my dad answered the door on New Year's Day 2020.
Hello?
And I'm upstairs, like, doing my hair, knowing full well how uncomfortable that you're going to be. And I'm thinking, tell him then. Tell him. Are you going to tell him? Tell him. And we're texting each other. And I'm like, well, you're going to have to tell him.
I forgot about that.
And then I remember you saying something like, oh, we're doing something crazy, Keith. And he was like, what?
We're going to Vegas.
Oh, that is crazy. And I was like, carry on.
Yeah.
And then
a bit more crazy than that.
And then I think I had to kind of rescue you and come down and say, like, right, yeah, Dad, we're getting married. See you later. Bye. And then we went to Vegas.
And we had the amazing time,
didn't we? We did. We had a fantastic time, and you'd not been in America before.
First time. Want to go back. Can't wait till we can go back.
Yeah, hopefully. And then we can like Control Alt Delete and like restart where we should have gone with the marriage, because it was slightly the walk wasn't kind of part of the plan.
No, it was an acid test, wasn't it, for sure? Because got married. You went to India, so when did you go to India? February, wasn't it? Was it?
I think it was the beginning of March, because it only lasted 3 weeks.
Yeah. So we were together for a little bit, then thrust apart because you went to India, and thrust back together because of lockdown, and then...
So then we had the drama of getting me back from India.
Oh, yeah, that was
because I don't watch the news.
No.
So I wasn't really paying too much attention, apart from when people started to treat me differently. So I went to the Taj Mahal and they wouldn't let me in, and there was the guys with the rifles, and the lady was having none of it at all. Like, the guys I think would let me pass, but the lady. And then people didn't want me in their cafe, or the ones that would serve me food kind of just wanted me out. And that for me was, and I was like, it's not right.
Yeah, and I remember you getting a memo from the Indian government saying, because we'd sorted you a flight back, hadn't we? I think on the Monday, and they'd said, we're not accepting any more inbound passenger planes after Saturday. So I was thinking, well, like, that flight on Monday is going to be the inbound from Sunday. So if, like, we need to get you booked on one now.
And the prices were just like,
as I was trying to book them, they were just disappearing. But we managed to get you one the next morning, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I slept. So I had a shower, I put my clothes on, I packed my bag, and I just slept with my clothes on, because I was like, I can't miss this flight.
Yeah, that was quite stressful, that was. And then picking you up from Manchester Airport.
Because I didn't know whether people were going to take me there. I didn't know whether people were going to let me in the taxi, because all they saw on the news was about Italy. So because I was white, that was the first thing that they saw, and all they're seeing on the news was about this virus that was coming from Italy with people that looked similar to me.
Yeah.
And when there's a language barrier, some people just wouldn't give me the time of day at all. So I really wasn't sure whether I'd be able to get a taxi back. And the guy was so helpful. And he even said, like, I will stay here. I don't know whether he did, but he said it. I'll stay here. And, if you can't get the flight, I'll wait here for you for a bit just to see whether it's going to be okay. Because flights were being cancelled and things.
Yeah. It was a crazy time, wasn't it? It was a crazy time.
So I came back, and that was the last night of the pub, which seemed very strange to me. Oh, I rang you up from the plane, so I was on the plane, and that cost me 50 quid.
Yes, you did, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to say I was on it, and I nearly swore then. It cost me 50 quid.
Yeah.
I did complain, didn't get my money back, but I did complain about that.
Yeah.
So then I came back, and
then it was lockdown, wasn't it, basically?
Yes, it was the last night and that didn't make sense. Like, this is so dangerous. Why are we now
forcing everyone out to go to the pubs for one last blowout?
Yeah. And I had a can of cider that night, and then was really, really unwell. It was like I had a crate of cider, and I was quite unwell for about 6 weeks after that, wasn't I? Yeah. But I didn't I probably should have gone to hospital, but because of everything on the news, it kind of felt like people were more unwell than me.
Yeah, I didn't really know. I mean, we didn't know what was going on at that point either, did we?
So we had a great time. Once I was well, like, we had a great time. We were painting the office, and we were like spending like real quality. One of our dates was we went to get posh blackcurrant jam.
We did, didn't we? Because garden centres were allowed to stay open, weren't they? So we went to, was it Bridgemere that we went to? We went to a few, didn't we?
Is that the Nantwich one?
Yeah,
posh. And I don't think we've opened it.
No, we never opened it.
It's probably
had a craving for blackcurrant jam and then never opened it.
Yeah, so we like you say, we were fussed together, like taken apart, fussed together. Then I banished you to Spain because you were doing my heading, because we were just like getting cabin fever in the house together, because we were like living, working, like everything was together.
Yeah, it was 24/7. But yeah, like lockdown was really good for us because we got to spend lots of quality time together. For the business as well, we got time to kind of stop what we were doing because we were growing so rapidly. It was tough, but then we got to look at our processes.
So we were growing rapidly. However, it stopped when the lockdowns were announced and everyone was unsure of what was happening. So there was uncertainty about that as well, wasn't there, initially, of income and things? Yeah.
The day after the lockdown was announced, that was like the single worst day of business that I think I've ever had. Like the number of, it was just me and my brother in the office, and we literally couldn't keep up with the phone calls and the emails of because our customers are care homes and domiciliary care providers, so they were just like, right, we need to cancel all the training. So we had like record sales, so we were up 50% on the previous year. And then it was all just wiped out. It basically went to zero, like that we had booked in.
And despite those difficulties that we were facing, you and your brother then helped like smaller care homes who were relying on using the supermarkets. Because their staff weren't able to go or weren't able to buy 2 pints of milk or whatever because people were putting like rations on them. And there was lots of smaller care homes, supported living homes. And then you and your brother went out and helped a lot of people with food banks as well. Yeah,
we did. So like with the training business, we knew that we had a solid business. We knew that we'd got, enough kind of resources to see us through, really keep everyone paid until the end of the year. So we looked at what the issues were. So my brother's background is procurement, in particular for the care sector. So we'd already got a limited company set up that we were going to use to kind of basically just supplement our income. But then when the main business had obviously basically just gone to ticking over, we focused on that. So we started to we were getting contacted as well by our clients because they already knew that kind of link. Rich in particular, like really helped. So it was one of the, I won't name them, but one of the biggest care home suppliers in the UK. Very reliant on supermarkets because they're the care homes are all very small, so they don't use the big wholesalers like Breaks and Bid Food as a matter of course. But like you said, at that point, you were limited to 1 pack of eggs, like 1 bottle of milk, which, you know, when you've got 10 residents, it's just not enough. So Rich dealt with the head office.
It was like Phil and Grant, like the Mitchell brothers.
It was worse than that. It was like Del Boy. We didn't really, you know, obviously Rich knew what he was doing, but it was mayhem. You know, it was, people were coming to us, you know, because care homes, they had no food. Like they could not feed their residents. So it was like rapid getting the account set up, getting the orders sorted. And yeah, so all of these smaller care homes, which traditionally had relied on the supermarkets for their supply, Rich was running around like a madman, setting up all these accounts, getting them ready with Breaks and Bid Food and Creed and all the wholesale suppliers.
No one knows what these names are.
No, they're wholesale food suppliers, basically. So they'll provide deliveries to all the care homes, restaurants, all that kind of stuff.
When you know, you know.
You know, yeah. But yeah, within like, you know, a week or so, they'd got all the accounts set up, regular food deliveries going in, got the emergency ones to keep them topped up.
And people were writing letters, and there was like little cartoon drawings and things. It had the wrong name, but like the thought was there and saying thank you, and people really appreciated it.
Yeah. Stoke Council got wind of what we were doing and contacted us to help the local food bank. And off the back of that, because it was part of the Trussell Trust, we then got in touch with the main Trussell Trust and set up, I might be making this up, it was somewhere in the region of 50 accounts for the whole of the UK for all the individual Trussell Trust estate. Because that's another thing, is the food banks, well, you know, a lot of people that donate will buy extra, and then you weren't allowed to buy extra, so they were giving them money. But then the food banks couldn't buy food from the supermarkets for the same reason the care homes were. So it was this real like rock and a hard place. It's like, we've got the money to buy the food, but we can't buy the food because you won't let us. Whereas the wholesalers just had no such kind of qualms about that, and they were happy to supply. So, yeah, and as you said, like, you know, Rich got a letter through from Stoke Council. I think they put his name down as Clive or Ian or something, but, you know, the thought was there. Yeah, and off the back of that then launched the procurement business, which Rich has now moved on to full-time from the training organisation. So
one of the things that I was saying before, so we started talking about the business, was about lockdown and how we actually had quite a good lockdown. And I think there's a lot of guilt associated by people who, some people did have a good lockdown. Like, people got to spend time with their friends and family, you know, like their children who weren't going to school and things like that. So there were lots of bad things that happened, and no one's denying that or taking that away from anyone. But there were also lots of good things that came out of it as well.
Yeah.
So that's the start of us. And now we're going to go to our first protest.
Yeah. So I mentioned before, like, we didn't really know what was going on. You know, we work in healthcare, so we could see all the care homes were shutting down. I remember the day, I think it was 2 days before lockdown. Me and my brother actually went for a meeting with a care provider in the Midlands, and they like let us through one set of doors, then shut that door, and then like wouldn't let us through into the main building until we'd like decontaminated ourselves and read stuff. So it was real like
decontaminated in fresh air.
Yeah, and then, you know, when we got in, they were like, go and wash your hands, and it's like, well, yeah, okay. But anyway, so, you know, they were taking it mega seriously, which, you know, no one knew what it was. But then, like, lockdown didn't end, it carried on going. And then, you know, little things like the garden centres being allowed to stay open. It was like, well, how does this make sense, you know?
So you were paying more attention to the numbers?
Yeah, and I remember...
Than I was.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I you know, being I'm a bit of a numbers geek.
Spreadsheet
Rob, yeah. You know, that's why we work in business, though, because we've got the spontaneity and chaos that you create, and then the order that I bring back to it.
I just come cartwheeling in the room and say, right, I have an idea.
Yeah. How much is that going to cost? Yeah, and the numbers weren't stacking up properly. And I remember reading a paper by John Ioannidis who was saying that he'd looked at the data from a multitude of different sources and had come to a conclusion that I think the infection fatality rate was going to be 0.05, which was like comparable to a seasonal flu.
Which we were told as well. They told us that.
But yeah, they did say
tell us
that multiple times. And, you know, speaking to, again, I won't name them, but some of our contacts in the healthcare industry who, there's a few in particular that I really value their opinion. And, you know, they were actually involved in setting up track and trace and stuff like that. And they're saying that, it's, you know, you've got nothing to be worried about. You know, you're fit, you're healthy. It's, you know, it's going to affect the elderly as per a seasonal flu. And yeah, it just didn't make sense. And then, you know, they were continually like lift a few restrictions, add a few more. And it was this
like the Yogi Koki
exactly. Yeah, so the first one was Manchester we went to, wasn't it? First protest.
So we went to, because you were looking more at the numbers, and for me, it was more the behaviour and the communication of how people were changing and the reactions and things. And I don't even know how I found out about protests. I can't remember that journey I remember one of the first things that I watched. So there was, I'm going to forget everyone's names now. So Dr. Claire Craig and Mike Eden. And then there was Ash on Instagram.
Poor Boys as well.
Well, he was at, I don't think
he was a speaker, wasn't he?
One of the speakers at the second one that we went to. And that's probably just got me my first strike on YouTube now. Just mention his name.
Yeah.
And, oh, there's a moped. And, it's a Lost Boys. I've lost my train now. Where am I up to?
Protest, first one.
Yes.
Who influenced?
The guy with the coffee, with the mug, the tea, the Irish guy, the redhead.
Yes.
That was one of the first videos, and I watched that, and then I asked you to watch it afterwards. And how I describe us when I talk to people is we're reading the same book, but we're on different chapters. So straight away, things didn't make sense, but for different reasons. And then I found that video somehow, and that made sense. And then I think I showed it to you, and you were like,
I'm not so sure. Some of it, I remember watching it and thinking, yeah, that makes sense. But you're chatting absolute rubbish on the rest of it. And then about 2 weeks later, I was like, do you know what? That video is making complete sense now. So yeah, this isn't right.
And he looks the same in real life as his cartoon.
Yeah, he does. And he drinks tea.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but yeah. So then somehow we found out about the protests in Manchester, and from memory, it was kind of like October, Christmas time, like winter time.
Yeah, it was cold, wasn't it?
And I remember I said that I was going, you weren't so keen, and I was like, well, I'm going to go anyway.
Standard.
So I don't know whether that was during a lockdown or tiers maybe, because we were in tier 3, weren't we? I think that might have been a tier thing.
And this is the thing, there was so much bullshit, to be honest, when you look back, that people forget about it. Like the tiers, like you can't cross the border, or you're only allowed one household, and everyone was breaking the rules. Everyone was.
But they were in bubbles.
Yeah. Oh, bubbles! Don't get me started on that.
They were in 28 bubbles, but they were in a bubble.
Yeah, it was a crazy time.
So the first protest, we went to 2 in Manchester, because the first one, I think the second one, PB was there speaking. The first one, was that where the girls were shouting, or was that the second one? They were stood on the bins.
That was the second one, yeah.
So then we were only allowed to meet up in groups of 6, because I think there was more than 6 of them, but yet they were shouting, because we'd walked past them and they said nothing because we weren't part of that group. And then when we came back walking with the protest, then they were like screaming and shouting and telling us what idiots we were.
Yeah.
Even though they weren't following the rules. And then I think then we had conversations about like, I need to do something, like I just have to do something just isn't right here. And I think I'd started putting things on Instagram, but didn't want to put my face on it because of like a fear, because anyone who was asking questions was instantly demonized, vilified, and
Insert name.
yeah, any name you
COVID
want.
denier, granny killer, conspiracy theorist, idiot, COVID idiot. It was, just a way of, but you see that with all the narratives, if you will, like Nazi, transphobe, homophobe. As soon as you question anything that goes against the mainstream rhetoric, will just call you something. So rather than attack the argument and have a conversation, we'll call you a name, because then you're not worthy of the time of having a conversation.
So we had conversations around me doing something, also weighing up that our customers were predominantly health and social care. So there was the concern about bills, paying our mortgage, because we don't have a mortgage now because we've downsized, but at the time we did.
Yeah.
So we had the conversation of Matt Hancock had kind of said, like, this is going to end at this. I can't remember exactly what it was. So we agreed we would wait till then. I can't remember how many things had been promised before then, but like this was it. This was the thing for us.
Yeah.
And he went back on the promise, and I was like, right, I'm going to do something now. So that was when I decided to walk to London, because one of the things
I thought was crazy. I just put it out there. I thought it was absolute lunacy. But what I've learnt with Jenna, and it was the same the first time round, is when she decides to put her mind to something, stay the hell out of the way. Just let her go and help her along the way, because you won't stop her.
No, you won't. You won't. No. Because all my ideas are really good.
Most of the time.
I have great ideas. So one of the things that I was saying, because, stats, numbers, all those things, research papers, whatever, like you could read all those things, but my brain doesn't, your brain does, but my brain doesn't work like that. So it's no good for me to start talking about statistics, because it would stress me out so much making sure that I had the most up-to-date one before anyone. Because if you're 1% out of a statistic, of a number like that,
absolutely.
They discredit everything. So I was very open that what I could do was walk and talk. So I walked and I talked, and created a community on Instagram. So anyone who's seen the first podcast will kind of know my side of the story and what I did. So how did that impact you?
Significantly. We'd gone from being thrust together, and then, we were enjoying each other's time, and it was amazing, because it was beautiful weather. We were making progress with the business.
Trying different ciders.
Oh yeah, we went mental on the ciders, didn't we?
Yeah, we had a lot of annings.
Yeah. We went on to Beers of Europe and bought 2 of every red or rosé cider. So it was like 8 boxes that turned up, and we had them all stacked out on the worktop, didn't we? And
I had to get a bigger pair of trousers, and I was like, I'm only buying one, because if I buy more, I will just grow into them.
Yeah. Yeah, we had an amazing time. And then, you decided to walk to London.
So conversations that we'd had before was about us getting divorced.
We went through everything, like to limit, and that was to limit the link and the impact of, well, now she's Jenna Lloyd, not Jenna Platt, so she's not linked to the businesses, because we were worried about getting attacked, which did happen.
And we could see how people were being destroyed if they spoke out.
Yeah. This was a little bit further down. This was when you were doing the cities, but I learned what the term doxing meant, because I saw it on Twitter. Some low-life parasite decided to go and find all of the personal details about Jen, linked her to all the businesses, including our home address, and it was all over Twitter for, I think it was about 3 weeks before I managed to get it down. Thankfully, nothing happened, but people were so mad as well. Like, that was a worry.
When you think about all these community guidelines that are broken, like, nobody puts someone's home address on there because they want people to send them flowers.
No.
That's got bad intent when people do that. And that was so difficult. But we did have quite a few stressful situations like that, where I think we only grew through it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we argued about things. Like, although that was a really stressful situation,
No, we sat down like adults and discussed it. Like, what impact is you walking to London going to have on us? Well, we're not going to see each other for X amount of time. And it was like, well, we were kind of prepared for that anyway because you were due to go to India. So, like, that's a non-starter. Attacks on the business. Well, originally the plan wasn't to go on the business and stuff like that, but things changed. And it's like, well, that is a risk because it's not just us. We've got staff, we've got suppliers, we've got all, everything that goes with running a business.
And we did talk to the team as well. And we did, because I would never want anyone to feel insecure about decisions that we've made. And we did talk to them and said that, if anything happens, because we thought we were going to lose the business, we thought we were going to lose our house, we thought we were going to lose everything. And we said, if anything happens, we will sell our house and we will pay your wages. Like that was where
we were at. It was, I know I keep saying it, but it was an absolutely crazy time. Like, but we felt that something needed to be done. Didn't know what. You had no idea that it was going to turn into the community that it did.
Yeah, and it was great. It was great. I mean, so many people helped me, bringing me blister plasters or cakes, letting me stay in their Airbnbs and in their home. It was fantastic, like meeting all these people. And yeah, when I came back from London, I kind of like had grown then, so I wasn't able to kind of stay stagnant and still again. There was something else, because now I've met more people that I know need help. It's not just something that's in my mind. Like, I know these people need help.
And there's lots of people that were reaching out to you that needed help, that were in jobs within healthcare, that were silent because they were petrified because they've got mortgages to pay, they've got kids to feed, they've got rent to pay, whatever it is, or tied to, pensions, tied to the pensions. So I know one of the main things that people used to attack you with was, all these people that are just floating around in her head. Like, I saw the messages, I saw the conversations.
And it was days on end. There was 3 days straight was the longest consistent time that I spent replying.
Yeah.
And then I kind of had to like slow it down and kind of like balance out a little bit. And I think just talking about our lot, like the things that we potentially had to lose, to say it out loud now, you sound like really paranoid. Talking about maybe getting divorced. We spoke about how there might be pictures of me in the Daily Mail. There are other newspapers available, but in the press where, I've maybe walked into a hotel and someone's held the door open for me, and then they say that, I'm having an affair or whatever. Like, we kind of went through a few scenarios to prepare us. And one of the frustrating things for me was when people would say, I would do that too if I was as comfortable as you. And we had everything to lose.
Yeah. It's an excuse. It really is. People make excuses for everything all the time. And what that is I would do it if I could be asked, ultimately. It's nothing more than an excuse. Like, we had everything to lose.
Yeah.
And we put it on the line.
The people who said like, I've got my job, I've got my mortgage, like, at least they're being honest. Like, don't say to me, I would do this because you're not doing it.
Yeah.
Like, it's that simple. So just say it's not a priority for me. Like, I'd rather you say that than say, because you're in this situation, you have the freedom to do it, because it didn't feel free.
No.
Like, it didn't feel like we had all this freedom and, that we were able to do this. Because I spoke about in the first podcast about being threatened with a 10 grand fine. Like, we don't have 10 grand that we can just be like, we'll just give that to the police. Like, it's fine. But it felt so important. Nothing else mattered.
Yeah. It was, it was really difficult. And, the fines, the potential of losing the business, we really...
Parking tickets,
speeding tickets.
I've got a system now.
Hotel bills, staying in hotels, obviously then eating out, like, it did over the 6 months, was it? I can't remember.
8. The whole thing, not consistent, because I was back for a bit and then,
Yeah.
you know, I was back out again and things. But
Yeah.
the whole thing was 8 months.
Yeah, you know, it cost us a lot, you know, financially, emotionally, you know, it was difficult.
Oh, it was horrible. Like sometimes, you know, I'd be in the street and have no idea what I was coming into contact with. You wouldn't know. And I think, you know, you do, you know, you're a big guy, you do your martial arts, you're fighting jiu-jitsu stuff, and your natural response is like, you want to protect me. And I'm there wandering around on the streets.
Wearing a sandwich board.
Like literally a target on my back.
Yeah.
And gosh, people were mad. They were so mad and angry. And what I found was, so the nurses who approached me, who didn't know what I was doing, some people didn't want to be seen with me in the street, and they would kind of walk past and say thank you.
Yeah. Which, the thing is, when you look at what the board actually says, nurses are scared to speak out. That could be about literally anything. And people were creating entire narratives and stories about what that board meant.
You're the one who says this. You're the one who says that. You're the one who says this. No, I'm not. But I tell you what, shall we have a conversation about it?
No, I don't want a conversation. I just want to shout at you and scream at you and tell you you're a really bad person. You know, what was your message? Well, your message was informed voluntary consent, which is a core part of the NMC Code of Conduct. They don't want to talk about that because they can't attack it.
No, and I was never the right type of nurse, you know, so that's why on my bio it said not NHS, because I wanted to be super transparent with people. And what I found from walking was the intensive care nurses and the, I don't know whether we're allowed to say that word, but the C ward nurses were the most aggressive nurses who I would encounter on the street, because they would shout at me. They wouldn't ask me questions. They wouldn't speak to me. And they wouldn't consider that someone somewhere else had a very, very different experience to them. And I wasn't suggesting that they weren't busy, because people were on furlough. There's less people in the of course you're going to be busy. Like, there's less access to equipment. Of course you're going to be busy. You're doing more PPE, you're doing more paperwork. Like, I've got no doubt that you are busy. However, when you're just looking at it like that and you're not looking at the bigger picture, that was a criticism of mine, that they weren't looking at the bigger picture.
It's the blind men and the elephant, isn't it?
Yeah. So you've got the 6 or 8 blind men. They all go to feel the elephant. They all feel a different part, and they all argue about it. You know, it was long and thin because they felt the tail. It was flat and wide because they felt the ear. It was pointy because he felt the tusk, and they all argue, but they're all correct.
Yeah.
And that was really frustrating for me.
There was no looking at it from any other perspective other than that, you know, ultimately what was a tiny wedge, especially now as we, you know, as we believed, as we kind of, you know, moved on through our understanding of what was going on, that the policies that were being put in place were going to be much more harmful than the actual virus itself. And I think it was the Times the other day actually published an article, and it was, kind of like we did think that. Yeah.
And I think, so back on kind of getting shouted at, that was difficult because you had to watch that. So you had to watch me in tears and then, you know, have a shower, curl my hair, and kind of like walk out the day after.
Smiling, ready to be attacked again, ultimately. You know, it was almost like a bit of war paint, wasn't it? That you having to put on and compose yourself, knowing that you had no idea the people that you're going to come up against and see. And, you know, it could be really positive, it could be really aggressive and negative, and you know, speaking to you at the end of the day when you'd got back to your hostel or hotel room or whatever it was on FaceTime, and, you know, you tell me about it. It was difficult, especially like you said, you know, I do have quite high protective instincts, and all I wanted to do was protect you, and I couldn't because I was so far away. And, you know, when people were attacking you online as well, like, making stories up about you effectively. Like,
not everyone's a lovely person.
Yeah.
There's a face I'd like to punch repeatedly. Yeah, and I think that like I'm super competitive. I want to succeed, whatever it is that I'm doing. Like I want to do a really good job, but I don't want to drag someone down in order to step over them. And
build your own success instead of celebrating other people's downfall.
Yeah, and so the were kind of like echo chambers, and then it becomes like people egging each other on of who can say the worst thing. And if I blocked someone, it would then become like a badge of honor. Like I asked such a difficult question. You know, she asks questions but doesn't answer simple ones. But
they weren't asking questions; they were setting traps. And there's a difference, like how you pose your question. I had a instance last week, wasn't it, on LinkedIn, where there was the crying CEO. I don't know if any of you seen that, and I didn't comment on anything apart from one guy's post where he'd asked for people's opinion. So I gave my opinion, and the reason I commented on this particular person's post is because 90% of the time, this particular person, I'm in full agreement with what he puts. And this time we were so far removed, like he was supporting him, saying it was a good thing. And I just felt it was all to do with attention. And, you know, he's got a social media company. Well, yeah, like how to build a following and interaction from being controversial. And like the level of abuse that I got from these people who were saying, be kind, like it's like, you're contradicting yourself. Can you not see this?
We need to be kind. We need to not be call other people names, but the other people are pathetic.
Yeah. It's like, and then when you call them out on it, we were being so pedantic over. Yeah. I didn't call them pathetic. I said they're being pathetic.
So their actions are pathetic. And it's like, I was just asking questions. I was just asking her a question. Like I wasn't being aggressive or passive aggressive.
Yeah.
And take that victim stance.
Yeah. But the point was, like, when I'd put my my opinion on, the guy then framed a question in the way that if I agreed with him, it made my point null and void. So it was like, well, you've just said something to nothing. Or if I disagreed, it made me a really bad person. So it wasn't a question, it was a trap. And a lot of people do that, how they communicate sometimes. It's, and that's rock or a hard place. It's
definitely want to get someone on the podcast to go through language and questions and how things are framed and posed, because it's a real skill being able to see it and then not to fall for these traps and not to fall for these games. So one of the things that I think really strengthened us, and it was quite a difficult thing to do, well I think it possibly was like letting me cry.
Yeah, that was very difficult because I see a problem and I try to fix it. And
you look very uncomfortable now. Now I've asked it, you look very uncomfortable. Yeah. Because it was really difficult.
Yeah. So see it like, well, yeah, it was, because I there's a major problem in front of me. My wife's crying, my wife's upset. I want to do everything in my power to make that pain go away. And I couldn't. I just had to sit there and watch it happen, watch it unfold.
But you didn't, and some people listening might say like, oh, like, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? But like, you weren't kind of like hugging me to stifle me, to stop me from crying. You weren't telling me to stop crying. You weren't telling me it was going to be okay or telling me that you could fix it. Like, just being with me while I was going through that was, because it would take a long time before I would cry, because I knew that I had to be out the day after. And my face just swells up so much, like when I get snotty and like my eyes are just leaking everywhere. So I almost had to like schedule in time where I could just kind of cry and
let your emotions out. Yeah.
So that was quite difficult, but I do think that it helped us a lot. I think we learned a lot about each other. We learned a lot how to communicate. And anyone who's watched any of my videos will hear me talk about transactional analysis and how we both kind of use that as a framework to go through. So we will talk about that on another one. But what I do want to do is ask some questions Because I'm the nurse who asks questions.
Okay.
So we've talked about us meeting and getting married and school and things. We've talked about us, the things that we've experienced when I was walking. And the last part.
And there is a lot more to go through as well, isn't there? There's a lot more depth.
There's tons. And I think though sometimes you can give too much information or say too much. And it kind of has to be kind of chunked out because people haven't got time.
No.
People haven't got time, have they? Definitely come back and tell us the rest of the stuff. And so these are the questions, some of the questions that people were asking. So this is one where people have got a lot of curiosity around this question. How did you afford Jen to walk? Because we didn't accept any money from anyone. We had the GoFundMe, which has all, not all of it's been spent, but what has been spent has all gone to charity and things.
Yeah, so...
we didn't take a penny. People wanted to give me money in the street.
Not homeless shelter. It was a Trussell Trust, actually. You donated a load of food to there.
Yeah.
The dog shelter.
Yeah.
The solicitors.
The solicitors was originally it was for the nurses' fees, and then it was Dr. Steve James, I believe, and then it went towards the children. But all that information is on Instagram. The dog shelter and the feed brum, the support,
supported living.
Day
Day
centre. They requested, and people were mad about that as well. Like, my God, I can't believe you're buying this food, and I can't believe you're shopping in a supermarket, and I can't believe you're like, this is what people have asked for.
Yeah,
like I've not placed my values onto these charities or organisations. Like I rang them up and said, how can I help you in a way that is helpful to you, not in a way that's helpful to me that makes me feel good. Like what would work for you? We didn't take any money off anyone. As well with the NMC Code of Conduct, I stuck to that, accepting donations, although people weren't in my care, they weren't a patient or resident, accepting any money, kind of in my head was against my code of conduct. So how did you afford Jen to walk?
Because we've got a couple of, reasonably successful businesses. It cost...
We don't have an expensive lifestyle, do we?
No, we don't, to be honest. Like, the most expensive thing that I own is I like rum. So we've got a rum collection.
And two photos of the dogs.
Two photos, yeah.
We went for a photo shoot with the kids.
I forgot. Yeah. I don't buy £300 trainers. I don't have, lots of expensive... Well, you don't have jewellery. I don't have watches, anything like that. So, yeah.
£5 t-shirt. Cheap your wife.
3 t-shirts. Rain Clothing Limited. Check them out.
Swipe up.
Yeah.
Rob 10.
I haven't got a discount code. I've only just gone onto the full package as well. So, we
made sacrifices.
We paid for it ultimately. And it would be interesting to actually do a count up of how much it costs, but tens, probably thousands.
And also me not being in work. That there's a cost of me not making progress at work.
Yeah.
And I remember someone commented saying like, oh, she's got all these morons to fund her prancing around the UK or a tour of the UK. And it's like, no, that's ridiculous. No. People just make stuff up. When they can't find anything, they just make it up.
Yeah. And, we that was something that we discussed because it, we could have monetized it if we wanted to, and we made a decision not to because it morally felt wrong to do it. So, yeah.
Although some were making millions, and it winds me up because here's us, like, this is costing us, and people are criticising, suggesting that we're making money out of it. Some grifter. What a grifter.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
However, you've got people like making billions, millions out of this. Why aren't you arguing with them? Oh, because I'm low-hanging fruit, because I'm easier to punch. Like, it's ridiculous. So we don't have an expensive lifestyle. We did make sacrifices. Seagull. Laughing at us.
Yeah.
And we also decided to downsize the house so we didn't have a mortgage to give us more freedom. And I think back to what I was saying before about if I was as comfortable as you, I'd do this. Everyone can downsize like their house, their car, their lifestyle, their Netflix. Like we can all make sacrifices if we want to. And for us, it was a priority.
Yeah. And, especially with the way the interest rates and stuff are going now, I think it was a fantastic decision to do that.
Oh, I love our house.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's so a question for me then is what happened with Divine. So I just wasn't the right fit, wasn't the right time, just wasn't the right person for the job, and had other plans as well myself, other things I was doing. It was a little bit different at the time. So yeah, I'll see whether Jamie can come on and talk about that.
Good.
But I did learn a lot. I learned a lot. So this one, will the powers that be apologise for the lockdown deaths past and to come? How angry am I? Do you think?
Never.
Never?
No. I don't think they will. I don't think they can. How can they? Because then that's admitting that they caused them.
Yeah. I sometimes wonder if people who were really horrible to me ever look. I'll get loads of messages, I'll get loads of trolls and they're like, no we don't, we don't. Yeah. We still think you're annoying, we want to punch your face.
Yeah. And the reason I would say no is because, I've experienced this with my friends. They might not have been full on like Nazis in terms of like, you've got to do this, you've got to follow the rules. But, they were bordering that and they pretend that they weren't.
It's interesting people's trauma response that's happened, what people's memories, what people have forgotten, what people don't want to remember.
And family as well, I had close family saying to me, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And then again, they pretend where I don't know whether, because I remember reading or watching something where it says like your memory, when you remember, you don't remember the original time, you remember the last time you remembered it. So I don't know if like over the 2 years, because we've had so many conversations, they genuinely think that that's what it was.
Things like eroded away.
Yeah.
I mean, they are talking about things more in the newspaper now. And I guess it's, what does the apology look like? Like, is it going to be Matt Hancock and all of them kind of rode out and kind of saying exactly what they did wrong? Because like the Nightingale hospitals, like the money that like they knew they weren't going to use them. I'm making that up now. I don't know that for a fact, but like that was a PR stunt if ever I've seen one. And do I think that they're all going to row up and have an announcement on the little podiums? No. So I guess it's coming to terms with what is an apology. What do you think of the dent?
Yeah. No comment.
I was gutted. I was so disappointed. Like, it meant so much and we'd put so much effort into it, so much effort into like this, the setup of the inside, so much effort into the design, getting it done.
Within the first hour, wasn't it?
I didn't even get on the main road. I didn't. And you know what?
But you know what we've done?
What have we done?
We've decided you're not going to be rushing about anymore, haven't we?
Yeah, no, it has had a huge difference. And I say, when things like that happen, I truly believe this isn't just me kidding myself on or trying to make myself feel better, but I truly believe that when something like that happens, it stops something worse from happening. And yes, you're right. I was trying to make a phone call.
Which could have been put back.
It could have.
To later that evening, the day after.
I didn't want to mess him around. I should have put it back. And it is a big van.
It's a very big van.
It is a big van.
What were my words when I saw it?
Yeah, you did say that.
Yeah.
It's a big van, babe. Yeah, I know, but so
I think there was an F word in there as well, or two.
So yeah, I have changed my driving now, not just in the van, but in the car. And also, yeah, you're right.
Rushing about.
Yeah. So it has had a really positive impact. And it doesn't look as bad as when I did it. So
No.
I'm I'm always grateful for it. Because
it's only cosmetic.
Yeah.
And like you said, you can barely tell now, especially because it's been gone over with the purple. So it does it looks like a little bit of a.
Yeah, it's
It doesn't look like a
character and
crash.
memories.
Yeah,
Character and memories. Are you outspoken as well, or more behind the scenes?
It depends on who to. So people around me will say that I'm very outspoken, but I'm not really one for being big on social media and stuff like that in general. So, like, if you're in the circle of people that I know, like, a lot of people will know my views very strongly, but I haven't got the personality to be on social media.
On
like
the
you.
van?
Yes. Yeah.
To have your face on or a mug.
Or a mug, yeah.
Tell me you've made it without telling me you've made it. I'll go first. What's it like being married to a strong woman?
Amazing.
All the time?
Oh, well, yeah. No, it is. It's challenging sometimes because you are so opinionated. And when you decide that you're going to do something, like I said before, you just got to strap yourself in. But no, like, we challenge each other, and I think that it sounds really corny, but I think together over the last 2.5 years, we have really grown. And I think if you were, I feel that I need to be challenged. I wouldn't want someone that's just going to be a walkover. So yeah, no, it's amazing.
I'm a nightmare. That's what he says about me at home.
She's a nightmare.
You're a nightmare, babe. You're a nightmare. Anytime, like, I text and it's like, I've got an idea.
Yeah.
It's going to be big.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So how do you cope with the slander against me?
It's difficult, like I said before.
You want to respond more than I do.
Yeah, and I think that's, like I said, my protective instinct is immediately to... Because it's just blatant lies, a lot of the time. And I just want to say, no, you haven't got a fucking clue. Like, this is what it is. This is a situation. You don't know nothing about her. But then they're getting what they want, Don't feed the troll. Like, yeah.
It makes
it's difficult.
The ones... So I do block sometimes, but sometimes, like I say, it does become a badge of honour and like, oh, you blocked me. And it's when you say to people like, look, do you know what? We're not going to get anywhere now. I'm going to be walking the city. Shall we meet and have a coffee? And then let's have a conversation. And they never do. And then you say, look, do you know what? You're getting a little bit weird now. Like, can you please stop messaging me? And then they send messages like, I know you said not to message you, but I know you said not to, but. And it's like, if this was real life and someone had said, leave me alone, stop talking to me, or let's say, for example, because people have followed me from different social accounts, so maybe they found me on Facebook and got onto Instagram. If that was real life and I was in a cafe and then I left because they were there and then they came to a different restaurant and sat down, like, that's weird.
Yeah, and there is a couple of people that don't follow you that comment on your stuff and message you.
They're obsessed.
Yeah, so they don't follow you, but they're obviously still checking your account. And there is a guy in particular, and we did kind of say if he does it again, like, I'm going to call him out.
Well, they got the NMC.
Yeah.
You've got the NMC. Because you've got to be a good character as well. So, I'm sure there's breaches of code of conduct there. And that's the irony as well when people are telling me that I'm breaching the code of conduct. And people would say that I've been struck off as well. That's another thing people say a lot.
Yeah, there was someone yesterday, wasn't there, struck off the gross misconduct. No.
Made up.
No, yeah, absolutely.
They never responded.
No, you wrote them a letter with your concern. Well, they did. They gave you an auto response, didn't they?
No. I think that was a personalised response. I think they did an acknowledgement.
Oh, right. Okay.
I did receive an acknowledgement.
An acknowledgement, but no response.
No. So I did everything like above board. No gross misconduct. No nothing. I'm on the register, qualified.
No restrictions to practice. RGN and RMN.
I am, yeah.
Dual qualified.
But I'm not a real nurse because I'm saying the wrong things. How do you cope when we were apart, especially if Jen was upset? So I think we spoke about that.
Yeah, I think we've already answered that.
It was hard.
It was very hard.
It was hard. How long have you been doing BJJ? For those at home who don't know what that is, what is it?
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I started in about 2010. Did about 18 months. Got a couple of stripes on my white belt. Dislocated my shoulder, moved down to Peterborough, So stopped training for 5 years. Started again November 2016 with Simon McGovern, and I got my black belt this December just gone.
You said it was a bit soon though, didn't you?
I personally felt it was a little bit soon because I'd literally been a brown belt for 12 months. It was bang on.
During the lockdowns and restricted practice and things.
Yeah. So Sai surprised me. We did a charity event for reorg. So it was like a 24-hour sparring session. And he surprised me with my black belt because I was trying to enter the British no-gi. There was no one in at brown belt, so he said enter at black. And it wouldn't let me enter unless I like registered a black belt. And I was like, no, I just, for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like your lineage and is really a big part of it. And it made me feel really uncomfortable. And he surprised me with a black belt so I could enter the British no-gi. So I'd been a black belt for 7 days, entered the British no-gi and won it as well, a black belt. So that was yeah.
And you love it, don't you? You're mad for it.
I train every day.
Yeah, you do. And final question, what's Jenna's most annoying habit? I don't think I've got any annoying habits.
Being late.
Yeah, I am late all the time.
Yeah, because I'm always on time.
Yeah, 10 minutes early or you're late.
Yeah.
Do you know what your most annoying habit is?
Rushing you when you're late.
No. I wasn't going to say that. There's two things that really wind me up about you.
Oh, here we go. Go on.
One, so you've got socks that have got characters on and the characters are supposed to go on the outside and you always wear them on the inside. Like, like that winds me up. And the other thing that winds me up is the cups. So we've got like 3 different patterns of cups. And logic says...
Let's not talk about the
put
cups.
pattern 1 together, pattern 2 together, and pattern 3 together, and you just mix them all up.
Mm-hmm.
Really winds me up. They're your most annoying habits.
Yeah. The other one...
Oh, here we go.
While we're at it, while we're talking about cups.
Well, we've got a table between us.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Jen will be at home on her own working and I'll come home and there's eight cups in the sink. I'll be like, have you had someone round? No, just made a brewing a fresh cup every single time.
1 cup, Jen.
Yeah.
I do love a cup of tea.
You do love a cup of tea.
Right. Well, are there any questions that you think I should have asked that I didn't?
No, don't think so.
You're going to come back on again?
Do I have a choice?
Of course, it always has a choice.
Yeah.
I've just realised I can hear the barrier going up and down as well. That's so sorry to anyone who said that. It's all going to... There it goes again. It's all going to be kind of teething problems of where we do the filming. So thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.